I've got some Super Ken head, hand, and body swaps coming up after this. Okay, I get a lot of requests for how to switch out Superman and Batman hands, and I did it once in a live video, but I think it's buried in there somewhere, so probably not too easy to find. This will be the dedicated video to swapping out Batman and Superman hands. I'm also gonna put this head on a Merman body. Now I guess I'm gonna use one of these two. They are on sale at Toys R Us this week, but I'm not sure that I need a third one. That's something that I have to do, is instead of buying more dolls and putting the head on them, why not just swap the head as I need it? I don't have to get each one in a head. But I do have two more of these Batman and Superman bodies. These are the two that I had before. They have two of my favorite heads. I really wanted to make this military guy the legs break. That's something that we have to look at also in these two. They seem to, at least the two that I've opened, both have this weakening in the legs. So you can see right there on the back of this leg, there is a stress mark on the joint there on both sides. I hope it's not getting worse. This one, it had that stress mark on there until one day it broke off. So we'll have to see. This one was Batman and this one was Superman, and they both had that. I hope these two don't have it. These cost me more than those two did, but this is definitely my favorite Ken body. It's a little more buff than we're used to. These are going to be the hand donors. I don't really like this head. I don't like this body sculpt either. If I compare it to just the regular Ken, I prefer how this body looks over this body. Those are weird looking abs. I guess they've just had this body for a long time and they use it. For some reason, they seem to use the same skin tone for the black label and the pink label and the signature, which is great for me because it's also the same skin tone as the Superman and the Batman, and so we're going to have a good hand match. Now, when you're doing Batman, you will get that little black plastic hinge on there for the method that I use, but this is no drilling, easy. You just need some boiling water. So if you're a kid, you shouldn't be watching this channel anyway. Adult supervision is a must. This is probably only something for adults to do anyway. If you're a kid, you probably wouldn't even care. And I've taken pictures of these on Instagram, and nobody's even noticed that, just because you think it's just the shadow of the joint in the picture. You can't really tell. So nobody has ever called out on that. The only time people just ask, hey, how did you switch his hands? So they have no idea that that joint is showing, and I could just give that a touch of paint if I wanted to, but I think that's unnecessary. Now, I like the fists a little bit because I'm often putting them in a flexing pose. So my solution, I think, is I'm going to give each of these dolls one fist and one flat hand so they can share Superman's hands. So he needs two hand replacements. He needs just one hand replacement. I'm going to clear this stuff out of the way and get these two dolls out of their boxes. This isn't really going to be a review of these. I'm sure I reviewed them somewhere if you want a better look. I mean, I'm going to show them to you, but I'm not going to do a full-on review of them. Other heads that match that I want to put on these bodies are the Mini-Me head. I have to put that head on, which is actually Owen from Jurassic World. And then this Steve Trevor, his head matches also. However, we do have a different neck situation going on with him, so I'm also contemplating figuring out a way to put legs onto his body, which probably wouldn't be so hard. I have the legs ready if they work. I just kind of have to take out this mechanism and put in the mechanism that was in this body. As you can see, I've replaced the Batman hands and put them on this body like this, because I might as well make some kind of Frankenstein monster out of these parts. I don't like that head sculpt at all. That's not one that I want to have. This is a head sculpt that I do want to have on the body. I kind of sometimes use that as a He-Man head on this body. So I'm gonna freshen up some boiled water and get these out of the package, and then we're going to do our thing. If you're wondering who this guy is, this is from a line called Barbie Video Game Hero, and it's a really cool, like, more anime styled series, and the Ken that came with it, I think his name is actually Chris in the movie, but it's a really cool head sculpt, and the girls' head sculpts are really cool too. If you haven't seen my rebodying of those ones or my fashion pack reviews with those, definitely check them out. I like to use those for the more super young or friendly or crazy, like cartoony or video game styled clothing. But this is one of my favorite toys that I own because he's just so cool. I put that Merman necklace on him today. It kind of suits him very well. Okay, here is Batman and Superman. When I was taking these out of the package, I thought maybe it was kind of not smart for me to get this Superman because he was twice the price of the Batman. I think I did get 10% off. $40 and $20 when I could have just got this one. But I guess to have those seamless wrists hands for one of my dolls at least, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. It's done now. Those are great prices anyway. Right now, I think they're really hard to find them on the secondary market. Now dismantle all of this stuff. I really liked this head sculpt in the beginning, one of the more interesting Ken heads, but as time has gone by and I compare it to other ones, it's smaller than other heads. Looks really small next to the Video Game Hero Ken, and I don't love this head sculpt as much as I do other ones. I'd rather put this Owen head on it, so that is what I will do. Maybe I'll do that right now. Let me put on my pair of glasses, and I'll need a stitch ripper to get these costumes off because they are sewn on before I bring over the boiling water. Superman's cape is kind of interesting because it's got this Velcro and it's made with really nice cotton material. Batman's cape is more of a polyester and it goes around his neck, and it's much more leathery and jagged and ragged. I found that my first one of him in a thrift store. I found him at Value Village, and he was like brand new, and I don't know what he was doing there, but I did not get that throwing star, so that's cool that I get that now. Oh, I was going to show you what he looked like with a different head on. That is what the peg looks like. I'm going to cut these things off because it'll make it that much easier to swap off and on different heads. I might need to put an elastic band. It is kind of loose, so I think you do have to put some elastic bands around the head peg. But that is what he looks like. Yeah, he is going to have a wobbly head. There's something about how this neck goes up further, and I didn't use any heating to get that off. I'm not interested in keeping this costume, so I don't really have to be that careful about taking it off. But once you get one stitch open at the very top, it's going to come off really easy. And I'm going to be extra careful taking off his boots because I do not want to have that same knee problem again. So I'm not a big fan of made-to-move female bodies. I think that they look like robots, but I guess it's because of the anatomy of the male body that those cuts really don't interfere, because it just looks like more definition, and I really do think it looks amazing. This is an incredible looking body sculpt. So yeah, definitely my favorite Ken body sculpt of all time. And there's a surprise for this one, which let me show you. I don't know if Ben Affleck is bigger and they wanted to portray that, but you can't even really tell. But underneath his costume, which is just as easy to open, you just undo one stitch and you're off. The chest plate on this was a rubbery plastic separate thing that was just stamped in there. The boots are really hard to take off. But as I was saying, underneath Batman's costume, there is this extra chest plate. So I don't know what that's about. And I guess it makes him look that much bigger. The costume is glued on to the top part of the chest, and you would be able to fit that onto Superman. I guess Superman wasn't buff enough, but they had to make Batman that much buffer. There's not that much of a difference. So I don't get what the story behind that is. Yeah, I don't see any stress on the plastic on these two joints, so I do not know what happened in the first two that I got. I'm going to be extra careful taking off the boots. The boots were really hard to take off on Superman. Superman had stirrups, so I think that the boots were sticking to those. Okay, and I'm going to take that head off right away, because I don't want to see that anymore. I guess I can show it to you. It's made much smaller than a Ken head. And when there are smaller heads, it does tend to make the doll look more expensive, I find. But not when the sculpt isn't cool. I'm not a huge Ben Affleck fan. I mean, Good Will Hunting was a good movie, but that wasn't exactly, well, I mean, he wrote it, didn't he? But it wasn't exactly due to him being in it. Oh, no, there is a stress mark on this leg. Whoa. I wonder if I just did that. Maybe it's when taking the boot off. But there is totally stress marks. Wait, I checked. So maybe it was me that did that. By taking off the boot, it doesn't look as bad as the one where the leg fell off. But that's kind of scary, actually. I'm not happy about that. Okay, we're going to do the thing now. I don't know if he's going to need a hand swap or not. Maybe he should not have closed hands. Okay, here we go. It is completely boiling water. And I forgot one more head of that. It's so funny. The babysitting club, Skipper's friend, he also is the same skin tone. And I think it's such a hilarious mashup that I want to do this. Okay, so I think I'm going to keep this guy's right hand flexed. So this is the one that I'm going to replace. So I'm going to try to replace these ones right now. So all I do is I stick the hand in the water, and then I'm going to see how warm that is. And it wasn't that warm, so I'm going to stick it back in again. And I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see. And just so it heats up enough. And then shake it off, and I'm just gonna pull it, and it's not working. And maybe I'll bring in the stitch ripper, just slice one side. So there is a peg that goes across the hand, and if you pull on it hard enough, it'll break at that point down one side. And that's what you want to do, so that you're left with just this nub on the hand. Now I'm going to do the same with this hand. Stick this into the water. I guess I've never removed Superman's hands before, and nothing's melting. I cut myself with the stitch ripper. The stitch ripper seems to be working for me because it's got that cut there. So I think I am going to just go up the side so I can slice through without having to pull too hard. Just be really careful not to poke yourself like I did. So on this one you can see better where I cut it. The hand's going to harden a whole lot. You're going to slip that over while it's warm, and then if it's not the right shape, you can warm it up to fit properly. So now this kid can flex on a Batman body. But the thing is, what we really want to do is get some of these flat hands. So I'm going to use this guy. I wonder if the water's still hot enough. Wait, I don't have any place to put that hand. Maybe soak both of his hands, because the pot's not too hot. Not that I would mind if I melted this guy's body. And then I'm going to do this guy's hand. So I guess 30 seconds is enough. The first time I did this, I just pulled onto the hand until it came undone. But definitely like this stitch ripping idea, except it is super, super dangerous. Be very, very careful. And let's try this guy. Oh, his hands are really soft. Okay. And then I was able to pull that right out. Just take the hand, and if you pull it, it's going to break right off. It splits just on one side, and it has done that for every time I've done this. And then you just force the peg into one side. And if you find that it's opened or anything, you can heat it up. You could probably also use some needle nose pliers to give it a good squeeze while it's warm, just to squeeze it together. But I do notice that there is a big gap there, so I'm going to heat it up and it'll make it more malleable. Now I have to heat up this hand because it's really hard again, and then meanwhile I can put this gloved hand into here. Now my water's probably not hot enough at this point. Now I'm gonna squeeze this while it's warm. I probably shouldn't have done that with the needle nose pliers because I did leave a mark on the wrist, but we got the wrist on there and it's looking real good. He's waving, he's flexing. That looks great. I'm gonna have one more hand to put back. Take this out of the water. Does it feel soft enough? I guess it's soft enough. My water is cooling down. Put the hand on. Just squeeze the hand into place. I think my water's not warm enough anymore. Let me see. I'm gonna put my own finger. Oh, that's pretty warm. I'm gonna stick the wrist back in there and I'm gonna try to mold that in a second. These hands have gotten too hard to put on this guy, so I'm gonna plop those back into the bucket too. Okay, so pliers are a mistake. Don't use the pliers unless you use some kind of protection cloth underneath because you're gonna get that texture into the wrist. And do use that little hook in the stitch ripper. It's like the perfect size to cut that little edge if you want to do that. Mold with your hands with the hot water, push closed. Careful taking off the boots because of that knee joint. Do you like the one flexed hand, one open hand? Is that the right choice, do you think? I think that gives them versatility. Then on your old doll, why not put on your discarded hands? I hope I was explanatory enough that you take the peg that's split now and you put it through the hole in this. So you gotta squeeze the hand on to do that. And the first part is to get the peg in and make sure that you got it in all the way and flush and flat and going through the other side. And once you have the peg part into the hole part, then you can start flattening the glove on the other half of the socket. And don't be afraid to rewarm as needed. So here we go. We got skin colored hands. They look awesome. I didn't even really like this body anyway, but it's not a total loss and it can still be used. He should probably have gloves on anyway for his special missions. All right, stay tuned to the end and I'm gonna show you what this head looks like on a mer body. Hope you'll like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Learn from my mistakes. I'm going to put this awesome rooted hair fashionista, who I already have, and I'm just going to take off his head, and I shouldn't have to heat this. Oh, wait a minute. This one comes off really easy because it's a total fixed joint, so there's no peg. That's much, much better. I guess I'm going to put it on this one. He has a different shaped neck from the newer heads, so his head actually does come up a little too high. The new heads, they tend to cut them up the jaw, so it is going to fit on this guy a bit better. And the skin tone is a perfect match, and his hair is the perfect match for this look. And you can switch up the look by give one guy the necklace, give one guy the cuffs, paint his tail if you want to, but he is definitely the perfect look for the merman. So good. These skin tones do not match, but he does match the merman.